there is a real magic to celluloid going through a projector. I know that digital projection is the way forward, and I know that's happening, but I think you'll never be able to completely do away with celluloid, because there is something about the quality of celluloid.
Well, there's a certain romantic charm to feel the old wheels going round in the projection room, and the beam of light stabbing out.
Cinema's just marvellous. I mean, cinema is such a sort of creative art form that you can move from the Hollywood mainstream telling fantastic stories right across to the experimental avant-garde, where they're doing things which are visually intriguing.
For 100 years, there has been a cinema situated on East Finchley's High Road. It began life as the Picturedrome, primarily serving the people of the local community.
One of the ways in which the cinema operated in the 1920s is that it competed through its orchestra and through the provision of live entertainment. In the 1920s, films were silent, but cinemas were not.
When it was sold in 1924, the Picturedrome became the Coliseum. It was one of the first cinemas in London to screen talking pictures.
In the second half of the 1920s, we used the stage that had been built in the cinema in 1910 to put on live acts. So alongside the film programmes, we had live performers, singers, comedians, dancers, and this again was a way of bringing audiences in.
The cinema was sold again in 1938, and with new owners came a new image and a new name, the Rex. The cinema's original exterior was removed and replaced with a modern facade. Mollo and Egan design panels were installed in the auditorium, giving it its distinctive Art Deco look. During the post-war years, cinema audiences declined throughout Britain. In order to survive, the Rex operated a programming policy that was different to its main competitors.
We, for example, showed foreign language films, which is not the sort of things that the main circuits were prepared to show to their patrons. We also showed revivals, which the circuit cinemas couldn't afford to screen. Consequently, our programmes were just that bit different and kept us in the game.
In 1960, Peter Bailey joined the Rex as senior second projectionist.
Well, I was spellbound from the word go. In my early days here, I had no inkling of doing 50 years. Because that is unreal of someone working in cinema for that length. 20 years, 30 years, yes. Maybe 40 years. But not nothing like 50 years. Well, magical is actually to thread or lace a film projector and start the machine and to stand by and watch project on the screen was absolutely magic. And in a few ways it still is.
In 1973, film distributors and owners of contemporary films, Charles and Kitty Cooper, moved to East Finchley.
The first time we went to this so-called Rex then, the audience, they were queuing all the way round to get in to see this film. So we got it, we saw the film and I fell in love with the cinema, and I said to Charles, we must try and buy it.
Contemporary were important because they were film distributors and they took over the Rex, which they renamed the Phoenix, in order to showcase their films alongside two other cinemas, one in Oxford and one in South Kensington.
What we felt was we always wanted to open brand new films that nobody could see anywhere else.
They didn't like the name of Rex as a cinema because it sounded more like a dog than a cinema. So they changed it to Phoenix.
We wanted to change the image. There was no real reason. And the Rex somehow, to me, was like sort of second-run cinema. I might have been prejudiced, So We thought up a new name. We just came up with the Phoenix. There was no real, serious reason for it.
In one way, they continued a trend that had begun in 1970, and this was a trend towards art cinema films. The other thing that they did was to introduce late-night programmes, midnight movies on a Thursday, Friday and Saturday night. It was an opportunity to show popular American films, show films by Hollywood directors whose names had become important, but also to show cult films and the sort of films that younger, late-night audiences would find appealing.
As somebody who spends his life watching movies, this is kind of where I learned it. This is like my alma mater. This was my college. This was the place that I saw all those films for the first time, because, this is kind of where I learned about Jodorowsky and Lynch and Friedkin and Ken Russell. So I grew up pretty much watching films in here.
And I think the sort of people who seek out independent cinemas, rather like independent bookshops, are looking for something very particular. They generally love film, and that's helped us, because I think the films we've made have always been a little odd. I mean, some independent cinemas did very well out of The Life of Brian, because there was a kind of reaction against the film in this country. In some places, they got dubious sort of health regulations to use as an excuse for not showing the film. So some of the major cinemas wouldn't show the film. Major cities wouldn't show the film. Swansea wouldn't show the film. I think it was banned in Glasgow for quite a long time. So it was independents near the city that often did very well.
The second crisis after that of the 30s came to the cinema in the 1980s, at the moment when audiences nationally were at their lowest level ever, and contemporary films, who owned the cinema at the time, thought maybe they would have to sell.
It was in real decline. Business was very, very poor, and the Coopers had it up for sale, just to sell it to get rid of it.
During the, must have been late 70s, early 80s was very difficult. So unfortunately we had to sell.
And then what happened was, along came these young people, and they called themselves the Phoenix Trust.
The Phoenix Trust was formed in early 1985 with the help of actress Maureen Lipman. Their intention was to save the cinema from a proposed office development on the site. In December of 1985, the Greater London Council provided a fund of money that allowed the Trust to take ownership of the cinema.
Ever since that time, the cinema has been operated as a non-profit-making charitable trust oriented to serving the local community and putting on art cinema films that are not available elsewhere in the locality.
So the fact this is here at all, still survived after so long, I think is a really important reason for supporting it. Also, there is a need for a cinema like this around here, judged by the people who come and see it.
A cinema is a living, breathing thing. That's what it is. I mean, and it has to all the time be the best that it can. So the Trust will essentially look after the Phoenix, and that's what they're there for.
It has gone into this attempt to provide something special for its local community, something special in terms of, I suppose, film education, really, bringing the filmmakers into the cinema, giving young people the opportunities to make films.
If you come here on a Saturday morning and you see Ellie with all the children, she's usually, there's more children that want to come in than she can actually even have, and it's just great because people do flock, and they're all local children, local families, that all know that this little gem is just sitting here, and so we all meet here on Saturday mornings. It's great.
I love working with the kids here. The kids who come to Kids Club They really love cinema, and that's a really fantastic thing for me to see, is when they come in, they start talking to me about the films that are coming up, films that they saw last week, things that they might have seen in school and studied, and then they sit down and watch the film, and afterwards they tell me what bits they liked, what bits they didn't like. So yeah, it's a great job.
I can see it in my own children. They've got amazing concentration span. They can sit and watch quietly, understand the plot, enjoy the film, and talk about it afterwards.
Kids are definitely the ones who are going to come back, and if we spark their interest at this age, then they are hopefully going to be cinema fans all their life.
Because bear in mind, actually, the future in the end is new audiences coming to somewhere like the Phoenix, people discovering the Phoenix, people seeing it and realising that it's a great place to go and see movies. That's the future. So yeah, the Trust is very important because the job that they have is essentially to keep it healthy and vibrant.
To celebrate the cinema centenary, the Phoenix has undergone an extensive restoration. Through lottery funding and public donations, the Phoenix Trust has raised over £1 million to complete the project. The theatre's Art Deco interior has been restored and the facade completely changed, with the addition of a balcony that will serve as an extension of the brand new cafe.
I love the place. I genuinely love it. I've had so many good times here, so many good memories, and it's so great that it's thriving because, as you know, there's many cinemas that haven't thrived and survived in that way. Multiplex cinemas are eating, audiences, and independent cinemas are finding it harder and harder to find their space. And so for it to be thriving is great. To be asked to be a patron of it is fantastic because, as I said, it was the place where I learned what I know about film.
I think that it's important to the community, it's important to the area. But most of all, it's just important for people who really love going to the cinema and having a kind of programming which is slightly different from the pattern of mass distribution that's at the big Odeons and all that. And as cinemas become more and more mass-produced and lots of little boxes one on top of each other, places like this become very, very special and really, really worth preserving. Because it's a different kind of experience seeing a film here, I think. Look at this.
We're geared up for the future. Insofar as there remains a taste for films, then we will offer it. And given that we have a particular niche audience and we offer a specialist fare that isn't accessible elsewhere, then so long as we continue that policy, I think that we're going to find audiences coming into the cinema.
Put it this way, we're getting bums on seats. We're taking money, and that helps and encourages us to continue. And continue for many years to come, I hope.
After a century, a cinema still stands on East Finchley's High Road. The Phoenix has survived to deliver magic to film fans and the community for generations to come.